What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Owner Ops Podcast. I'm your host, Austin Gray, and in this episode, I'm hosting Brock Peel from Canadian Sanitation. Brock has become a good friend at this point. He's been on the podcast several times before. We had him on twice in season 1, and we recorded this at the beginning of 2025, just doing a recap on his year. He's got 3 guys. He hit 2.3 in revenue. It's incredible. Brock is insanely focused on his craft of installing and repairing septic systems. They've made a strategic change to where now they are no longer pumping septics, and you'll have to listen to the episode to hear his take on why he made that change. Basically allowed him to go from 1 to 6. I'll leave it at that. So listen to the episode and hear Brock's recap on how they are maintaining efficiency, what roles he's handling at this level, and what they're going to do moving forward. I've learned so much from Brock, and every time that I interview him, he encourages me to focus in our business. I've got an exciting new sponsorship for the podcast. We've developed a partnership here, and it is with Jobber, the software that I've been using in Bear Claw since day one. I believe Brock uses it in his business as well. I'll be creating more how-to content on our YouTube channel, so you'll get to see behind the scenes of how we're using Jobber to optimize efficiencies within Bear Claw. And I'm sure that if you stick around, we're going to be doing more episodes with Brock on how to start a septic business. If you're in the excavation industry and you want to focus specifically on septics, he's going to be putting out some content for you guys about starting and focusing on septics. But let's jump into this episode to hear more about how Brock's 2024 went and how they hit 2.3 with 3 guys. This episode is brought to you by Jobber. Jobber is the all-in-one software management solution specifically for home service and trade businesses. I remember when I was starting Bear Claw several years ago, I was wondering how the heck I was going to send estimates, keep track of a job schedule, send invoices, and collect payment. When I came across Jobber, I felt like I had found the Holy Grail. Jobber makes the back end of my business so efficient, and it saves me time as a business owner. So if you are in the early days of starting your home service or trade business, look no further than Jobber as your software management solution. And if you use our unique link, I get a commission from it. And Lord knows I still have debt to pay down on all this heavy equipment. If you've been enjoying the podcast, this is one way you can support us. Visit go.getjobber.com/OWNROPS. That is go.getjobber.com/OWNROPS.
We've kind of stayed in touch, chatting back and forth a few different times. So I've been kind of following along and watching everything that you're doing and paying attention to your posts and stuff online. And I see you're doing snow. Did you always do snow or no?
Yeah. We just launched snow this year, but you hit the 2 million mark this year.
Yeah, well, I just checked before I hopped on just to check where we're at. I think so. By the time I wrap up my last 2 jobs, say this week and be into next, just before Christmas, there we'll be at just about 2.3. Yeah,
2.3 with you and 2 other guys.
Me and 2 other guys. For the most part, we did have a bigger team for the first, I would say like a third of the season. Yeah, we did have a bigger team, and then we dialed that back for kind of multiple different reasons why we can get into that. One person left. Well, both of them ended up leaving, but 2 of them were for 2 different reasons. We went down to 3, and we just kind of decided to go back to that because that's what we did last year. And it was just 3 of us. And we did, like last year we did 1.3 or 1.4 and, 7 months in business. So we said, you know what, let's stick to 3 and let's just work, right? Let's just work. I'm in the field, full time every time that we got work. We really just slugged it out for the rest of the season, working as hard as we possibly can, getting as much done as we possibly can. Like a good majority of that revenue, like we've got more work done with 3 guys than we were getting done with 5. So
that is insane. 3 guys, 2.3 in revenue. For those of you who don't know, Brock has been on the podcast twice before. We got into such good content on the first time that we had to split it up into 2 different, I believe they were like hour-long episodes. So if you haven't listened yet, go back and listen to, I believe those titles were Brock Goes 0 to 1.3 in 7 months. So that was your first year after you specialized. So what I want to get into on this podcast is the power of specialization. Could you tell our listeners, for those of our listeners who have not listened to those first episodes, that decision you made when you were a generalist, kind of in construction, general dirt work? Can you take us from there and tell us what decision you made?
Yeah, when I was a general contractor, you're the master, you're the jack of all, master of none, is what I kind of realized. No one was looking at my company, or no one was looking at what I was doing and say, oh, I bet this guy really knows how to do excavation, or I bet this guy really knows how to tile a shower, or this guy really knows how to build a deck. Like, it was just, kind of master of, nothing, and not really specialized, which is fine for like a lot of people. There's nothing wrong with that. Some people want to build custom homes. I mean, that's, then you're a generalist at that point, but you're still specializing in, say, luxury or custom homes, which I was a general contractor. And what I wanted to be was, well, what I enjoyed was the excavation, and I like doing the septics. So my thing was that I want someone to look at me and know what I do right away. And I want to do one thing, and I want to do it really, really well. When I look at a certain electrical company, like, I know those guys know what they're doing. I don't need to question when I look them up, when I see their truck, when I do anything. I know what they do. There's no question what they do. They're electricians. I have no doubt when I call them that they know what they're doing. Same with certain plumbers, same with, drywall guys, anything, like whatever it is, when somebody specializes, whether it's, land clearing, different things, is that when someone specializes, you have no doubt what they do. You call them, there's no doubt in your mind generally that they can get the job done that you need them to get done, right? So that was my thought process there. So we specialized just in septics. In the sanitation field, we were doing pumping, septic installs, repairs, everything. Again, Canadian Sanitation, there's no doubt in anybody's mind what we do, and we just wanted to be the best, wanted to be industry leaders, and wanted to be the best at it. And when you call us, you know what you're getting. You're not calling me to, ask me, can I tear down your house? Can I dig your foundation? Anything like that. No one's calling me, asking me to tile their shower. They're calling me for septic. That means that, I eat, sleep, and septics really is all I do every day. I know the ins and outs pretty well. I know the codes off the back of my heart. I know what things cost. We do the same thing every single day. So the way that I can converse with most clients around their septics and how efficient we can be, and quoting the jobs and getting the jobs, executing the jobs, is at like the highest level now compared to prior, when I was just doing septics and a lot of other things. So I think that that's been a really, really powerful thing, is how efficient we've become now, where, when I started, we were 1 week, 2 weeks plus for a simple septic. And, to some, to some people in the States, a week might sound like a long time. A septic really should take a lot of times 2 to 3 days. But just with our inspection process and the size of these septics, a lot of times, we average 4 to 5 days for a system, which now with 3 guys, we're averaging 1.5 to 2 septics a week in our peak season. So we're putting in 2 of them a week, 2 guys on one crew, 1 guy on another crew. And, 1 guy can essentially put 1 in, and the crew, will put 2 on another site, and they'll essentially put 1 in on another job. So we're averaging, 1.5 to 2 septics a week, where prior to us specializing and not doing this every single day, that wouldn't have been feasible.
What is your average job size
this year? Because we've really, really honed in on, we haven't done a lot of repair work. We haven't done really much else other than just slamming septics in. This year, we've probably averaged probably 40,000. I would say it's probably average range, 35 to 40,000.
Okay. And just to give a range, like, what's the smallest, what would be like the smallest install on the revenue side, and what would be the top end of it?
So smallest is going to be like a tank. If you're going to do a tank swap, like if someone has a failed tank and you're going to go in and swap a tank, we can usually do that in a day. We usually charge around 12,000 for that. That's going to be the smallest. Possibly a septic bed remediation, where we, jet the lines. Generally, I really don't do that. I try and, talk my clients out of that, because I know I'm going to take their money and charge them 5, 6, 7 grand to jet their bed, and they're going to call me back in 6 months and tell me it doesn't work, and then they're going to spend 30 on a new bed. So I really just I try and talk them out of it. And if they don't want to go with me, that's fine. I just don't want to spend more of their money for something that I can't warranty and something I can't guarantee. So we do that the odd time. We did jet a couple beds this year with doing a tank swap, but that was more for different reasons because a septic there wasn't possible without drilling a well, and it was going to be a 6-figure job. So it was kind of worth it for them to throw $4,500 at, we're already doing the tanks. So we only charged another, I think, $4,000 or $4,500 to jet the bed. You have to dig it up, and, we replaced the header pipe and things like that. So that really made sense because they did a tank swap. The tank was say $13,000, and then another $4,000. So there's $17,000 for a tank and a new header pipe and all their lines jetted. If they needed a new septic, it would have been over 6 figures because they had to drill a well. They were close to the water. It would have been a tertiary system, advanced treatment system. So that was worth it. Anyways, I sidetracked there. So probably the odd time, $5,000 to $6,000, but generally $12,000 would be our least. And then our most expensive septic that we did this year was around $135,000.
And why 6 figures for that system? Just like big house, big field, big tank. Like what's driving that cost?
The big driving factor in that one major would have been the well. So you got to be 100 feet from a dug, like this is Ontario building code. So 100 feet or 30 meters from a dug well, 15 meters or 50 feet from a drilled well, and then 15 meters from the water. So this was a waterfront property. So essentially, to be able to do this system, we would have had to get a new well drilled. Then they would have had to run a whole new line from the house, trench it. We had to move the septic tank because it was too close to the water. So we would have had to take it out, put in an ejector pump chamber, move the tank to the higher side of the property. There was a lot of rock and trees there, so we had to clear an entire area. Like they would have lost all their privacy. We had to clear all these big maples to get the bed in there. So then there's some land clearing in there to get, to be able to put the bed in. And then on top of that, it's a half decent sized house. So again, the septic for this place would have been say 50, 55,000 for a septic. 45,000, likely, but I believe that because it was on the water for space reasons, we were probably going to have to go with a tertiary system, which is an advanced treatment system. So we do Waterloo, biofilters or nitrogen and phosphorus removal. A lot of times they want that on these waterfront properties. They want nitrogen and phosphorus removal. So you need to go with an advanced treatment system. So that bumps your price up, minimum 20 and 25%. So realistically would have been a $60,000 system probably. And then with a few other things, you got an electrician in there. Now we got pump chambers and everything. And then a well is going to cost you around 30. So if we're at 60, well's 30, we're at 90, we're going to be at 100K pretty fast.
Nice. Okay. Equipment that you need for this business model.
What we need and what I have, I guess that's two different things.
What are you using? What did you run with this year, equipment wise?
We picked up another T66 skid steer. So we got 2 of those now. So we got 2 skid steers. We got our Bobcat E50 5-ton Mini X. We've got our Hyundai HX130 13-ton, dump truck and a few float trailers and stuff like that. But that's really it. We sold our septic pumping truck and sold the roll-off truck as well this year.
I remember whenever you texted me earlier this year and you were like, yep, a little bit of a change in the model, sold the septic pumper. And could you talk us through, well, real quick, I want to recap that. So you got 2 skiddies.
Yep.
2 Bobcat T66.
Yeah.
You like that machine?
Yeah, they're good. We've been having some issues with the new one. We just got one, it's only got 100 hours on it. Yeah. It's been at the dealer now for about in and out of there for about 2 months, and then gave us a rental machine for now. But they gave me some clapped out 595 with no rear view camera and no wide tracks. And, I'm kind of a little pissed off about it now. I was ranting about it last night to a buddy I paid 100 and some thousand for this machine, and we got it wrapped and outfitted the way we wanted it. It's only got like 90 hours on it. It's brand new, just got it this summer. And I'm out here and they're trying to make me feel better because they give me a rental, and I'm like, well, I'm making the payments on this new 66 that I got with my nice ride control and all the bells and whistles and my backup camera. And, you're trying to make me feel better that I'm here with this 595 that's got 4,000 hours on it and tracks falling off and no backup camera, and you've had my skid steer for the last couple of months. Yeah, we're going to be rolling some heads here or there pretty soon. If they don't figure something out, I can't have this. It's a brand new machine. So other than that, our other one, the first one we got, is really good. I do like them. I like the look of them. I like the white. I like the cab. I like the operator cab and I like the visibility. I tried out a brand new 325 this year. Really good machine. I found the controls for me was just a little bit jumpy, and I found that the visibility wasn't as nice when you're doing final grade just because of the loader arms. I couldn't see the tips of the bucket as well. That's what I like about the Bobcat is that they've really have an ergonomic design on the loader frame where it's rounded and they're thin. So I find that a big difference, and everyone that hops in our 66s is like, wow, the visibility in these is incredible.
Yeah, my dad had one of those machines, and I rented that from him actually when I started my business, and I freaking love that machine. It's snappy too. Like it's nimble. It's like you can get in tight spaces, and it's quick, responds well. Okay, so you got two T66. Then you have E55, which I believe is a little bit older version of what is currently the E50 right now on Bobcat, right?
No, I think it's the other way around. So I think now they got the E55 and E50 is the older model. So we have the E50, which is a little bit older model. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Got it. All right.
Yeah.
And then you have, what was your big hoe?
HX130. It's a 13-ton Hyundai.
Okay. And then can you talk us through, did you buy all of those new or used, or a mix of both?
So the two skiddies and the HX130, those are brand new. So we bought those brand new. We've been kind of reflecting on some of that and those purchases and those payments and thinking about, you kind of go through it as like, should we have done that? Should we have done this? Like a friend of mine just bought a really nice John Deere 13-ton. I think it was 140 grand. Again, this is Canadian dollars, so our dollar's worth nothing. So everything's $1 million to us. So it was 140 grand with 1,800 hours, which was a good buy. It's a really, really clean machine. We were 265,000 at the door for our 130. A part of me thinks, should we have bought used and have a higher interest rate and just be able to pay it off faster? But at the end of the day, we wouldn't be where we are without that 13-ton because we couldn't have taken on the work that we took on. We couldn't get the work done that we've got done. That 130 has really built us, I think, and also pushed us to where we are. And if it wasn't for the way that everything went down with how we got that, I think a lot of things would have been different. I wouldn't have pulled the trigger on a 10% interest rate on a used machine. I had some confidence, but I don't know if I had that kind of confidence where we took the 130 on rent for 6 months, and that rent was going towards a purchase price if we decided to buy it 100% of it, which was a really, really good deal for us. So whatever we paid for rent, when it came time to purchase, all that rent that we paid went direct down on the purchase price. So that was really nice. And that kind of really kickstarted us there. But I do think that there's a lot to be said to be buying used equipment cash. Like our dump truck, we bought it cash. Our E50, that's cash. All of our pickup trucks and trailers and everything, everything, our van, that's all owned outright. So it's just the two skid steers and the 13-ton that we had to finance, that we still have financing on now.
So for those of you listening who are unfamiliar with Canadian versus USD, you said 265 Canadian for that larger hoe, and that would be 195 grand or 196 grand USD. So break that down. What was your monthly rent payment to start on that, and then what did it transfer to whenever you decided to do a purchase agreement with them?
Yeah, so it was around 7,000 a month. That was our rent on it. Was around 7 grand a month. I think that was with taxes and everything. I don't quite remember. It was a healthy amount though. Like we took that week one, basically. Like our first job we ever did as Canadian Sanitation. I have a picture of that 13-ton. It was the first job we ever did as Canadian Sanitation with that machine sitting there at 13,000, 7,000 a month plus a brand new skid steer. Honestly, a little bit mental now that I think about it, but we made a go of it. It worked out, but it was seven grand a month for that. And then once we did the purchase, we ended up with, I think it was like 65 grand down with the rental and like with what we paid in rent, and that we put some extra money down. We had to pay the HST. We got a risk bucket with it, stuff like that. So our monthly payment on it now is about $47.50 a month.
That's after it transferred to the financed agreement.
Yeah, and our interest rate's super low. I'd have to double check on it. I think it's like 1.5% or 2% interest.
Okay, so that's 3,511 USD for your monthly payment there. And then how long did you spread that out?
I believe it's 5. I believe it's 5 years, or it might be 4 years. I don't quite remember. I'm hoping not to go the full term on it, anyways.
Yeah, I hear you on that. It's like, I don't know, man. I always go back and forth between like, how do you use cash to pay down equipment and like get rid of that monthly nut, or do you use cash for growth? And I want to get into that here in a bit, but I kind of want to get for the listeners kind of the big picture of your current business model, like how you hit 2.3 with 3 guys in the septic installation.
This episode is brought to you by Bear Claw Media. Bear Claw Media is a growth agency for service and trade-based business owners. If you want to grow your business and you offer a high-ticket service in local service or trades, there's a really good chance that we can help you grow with Facebook, Google Ads, and content creation for platforms like Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. If you're interested in growing your business, check out gobearclawmedia.com.
So you've made some strategic decisions along the way. Now that we have an understanding of your equipment, I want to jump into roles and responsibilities. So you've got 3 guys. You got to be doing a lot. Like, sounds like you're still doing estimating, sales, things like that, but you're still jumping in the field too, correct?
Yeah. Which when systems are going, like I would say this year, from say July or August on, I've been in the field full time. Which honestly, I've had the most fun in our business in the last, probably the last 3 or 4 months. I've probably enjoyed it the most. Crazy busy for 3 guys. We got lots to do, which is a stressful but nice place to be sometimes. There's a lot going on, certainly, but I've enjoyed just being back in the machine, and I think that like when we get into that, we can get into that later in payments and finances and strategically placing your businesses. Also, like I think I've done a lot of reflecting or kind of changing mindset. Like I think my mindset's ever changing, and it may change next year. I'm sure if you listen back to my podcast from last year or different things, like I have a little bit different of a mindset, and I think that you kind of develop that from your experiences and different different things, and you kind of realize maybe where you're at or where you want to go. So I think that we're like with just 3 of us, I'm in the field pretty well full time. If we have say only one septic to do, then it's my partner Brad and our only main guy Matt. They'll be doing that, and then I'll take the time in the office and try and get a bunch of things done in the office. But generally we have many septics to be done, so usually I find that I end up working on my own the most. I don't mind working by myself, and if I need help, I'll call in a sub for a day or call in somebody and say, hey, come in. So I got subcontractors I can call on, and I'll just pay them a day rate to come give me a hand if I need. I do all of our sales, I do all of our estimating, I do all of our designs, I do our permits, I do our locates, meet with our clients, and I'm installing full time as well. And then my partner will handle, he'll handle some calls for repairs if someone needs an inspection or there's a repair if a pump goes down, someone needs a pump replaced. As much as we don't like doing it's just about servicing the client, because we're out of the pumping now, so my partner isn't pumping anymore. So he's pretty well installing full time, trying to maintain our equipment when it needs to be done, and then taking care of any repairs and things like that.
You guys are cranking. You're handling like 3 people's jobs right now. Back office.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're still doing billing, right?
Yeah, I do all of our invoicing. I have a bookkeeper, obviously, and then I've kind of got my wife a little bit more involved lately. Since we've been down to 3, she's kind of jumped in to give us a hand, which if you asked me 3 years ago, I would have told you to never do that. And I've kind of never wanted my wife very much involved in my business. And not for the reason it just for the fact of like, I don't want to put that burden on her.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
she's gotten involved recently, and I think that just very strategically planning out her role where it's a nice add-on and the little things that she does, but not it's not a huge position to fill right now what she's doing. So I think that that's kind of been nice, because I think for us is just once we went down to 3 guys, I've just been trying to run as lean as possible, as low overhead as possible, and figure out what works. Every problem is a revenue problem, and money does fix a lot of things in business. So if you have money in the bank, right? So
It's so true.
I don't care. I don't care what anybody says. I mean, you need money to do anything. So at this point, I want to, we're at the stage in our business where it's to make as much money as possible, stack as much money as possible, and then we can make some moves. And I think that I kind of learned a little bit of a lesson from that, is that we made some pretty serious moves early on in the season and took on some people with maybe not enough cash reserves set aside, where we chewed through that really, really fast, and our overhead, got really high, and that we were, not, we're profitable, but not to the degree that we would want to be. Is that I was realizing and running the numbers monthly and weekly and biweekly and daily, and going, okay, like this isn't sustainable. This is fine if we can work 12 months of the year, but frankly, we're not making enough money right now to be able to, have some slow times in the winter with the way that we're operating, right? So I think that that's been a big thing for us, is just working as hard as we can, as lean as we can.
How many months can you work? Remind us on that. I know we talked about it in the other episodes.
Most people around here will, kind of say you got to make 12 months worth of money in 6 months. I would say that that's fairly accurate. You can probably stretch it out to maybe 7-8 months depending, but we have half load season, which is a nightmare. So we can't really do much until May. And then last year we were able to work right till January, no problem. And we were doing septics in January. But this year, as soon as December hit, we got hit with like 4 feet of snow, like 5 feet of snow. It took us 2.5 weeks to get one of our skid steers out because we had a big snowfall. And that just, made a colossal mess for us everywhere. The system I've been putting in the last couple of days has just been an absolute nightmare with snow and everything coming down. So, I would say really our season here pretty much wrapped up the end of November for what we could really do. So we've been May to November. So that's, your 6-7 good months.
So you, like listeners here, he did 2.3 million in revenue in 6 months of working with 3 guys.
Yeah, we've had some pretty big weeks. So there was 5 of us. I had a driver. I think if you listen to my last episode, I had my sister in the office, and she was a dump truck driver as well. And then we had another guy who was just like an operator. And I think that from, say, April to, around August, I think we probably did, I think we were probably at 900 grand or something like that in a few months. And then from September, I would say from September 1st till now, I think we've done with 3 guys over $1 million. So September, October, November. So 3.5 months. So yeah, we've been averaging around 400,000 to 500,000 a month for the last 2 or 3 months.
It's so funny because you see all these people on YouTube like, make your first 10,000 a month. You're putting up $500,000 a month, man, dude. I'm so impressed. Like, I think you're setting the standard for all of us in this industry. Like, it's incredible to watch from afar. Like, I think it would be impressive if you hit 2.3 in 12 months with 3 guys. But the fact that you're doing that in 6, I don't think I'm the only one who's thinking that this is just like mind blowing. It's impressive. So thanks for putting in the work. Thanks for, setting the bar high here. I think it's awesome. And, geez, I hope more people hear about this and I hope it motivates more people to just go out there and get after it.
Yeah, again, I mean, a big, just to kind of butt in there, like a big number is not always a good number. So make sure that you're, I mean, anybody listening to this needs to know that too, is that big numbers aren't always good numbers. I mean, there's like, I know guys who are doing a third of the numbers that we are, that are very profitable, like running very lean 1-2 man crews, have all their stuff paid for, and they're very profitable in what they do, and they're doing 600, 700, 800 grand a year, and they're still making 200,000, right? Their profit margins, they're net 25, 30 at the end of the year, right? Which is just not, at our stage in the business is just, net 30 on 2.4 million or 2.3 million is just not possible with the kind of overhead that we have. So I think that that's another thing to remember, is that, like, say the number we're at now, like, I don't want to hit 5 million next year. I don't want to hit 10 million next year. That's not where I want to be. So I think that kind of finding that range, but I'm certainly very proud of hitting that kind of number with 3 guys. Because if we know that we can hit that number, now that's a good range for us, that, okay, if we can do 2 million a year with 3 guys, now it's just about refining our practices, paying down some equipment. If we can have less overhead, and just fine tune it to where we can start to bring those margins up and we keep that revenue the same. Because when you get into this business, especially when you're new, this is our second year with Canadian Sanitation. It's just all, you just want to get out there and move dirt and work and just make money. That's all you want. And you're kind of just going so fast and so hard, you don't even really hardly know what's going on sometimes. So that's where, when you reflect on your year end, it's like, okay, what are we going to do differently for next year? And if all it is every year is just double your revenue, that's not really my goal. My goal is to, find a good mark, get a lot of work done, but I want to improve our practices and have a higher profit margin at the end of the year.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you clarifying that. I should have gone into ask this question before, and I was making an assumption, right? If you're decreasing the amount of people and overhead you have, like, I'm assuming that profit went up, but
it did. Yeah.
Okay. So profit did go up from year 1 to year 2.
Yeah, okay. For sure.
Because at the end of the day, like, we can all talk revenue, but revenue is sometimes just a vanity metric, right? If it's not efficient. So profit did go up.
Yeah.
And what are you thinking about right now to change for next year?
I think I would like to add, I think a 4-man crew, like a 4-man team, is kind of optimal in this business for how much we're doing. I think we're pretty lean. I think 4 guys in the field. I think we're pretty lean at what we're doing right now, and it'd be nice to add another. But to be honest, I'm just focusing on trying to make some money and strategically place us in a very strong position, I think, is really what I want to do right now. I'd like to pay off our 13 ton. That's a close to $5,000 a month payment. I'd like to pay that off, and I think that would kind of put us in a nice position. I mean, that payment right there, that's a wage, right? 5,000 a month. So if I clear that, now I can, maybe I can bring on another team member. If I'm making that payment now, but maybe I can bring on another team member once I get rid of that payment, that now can make my life a little bit easier. That makes, that we don't have to work so as hard, or I don't have to do as many roles as I do. But I think for right now, I just want to make as much money as we can and kind of put us in a strong position. And I don't want to grow too fast, if that makes sense.
Do you think that for next year, that like right around 2 million is the sweet spot for revenue, and you need to refocus on, it's almost like, do you need to just replicate that? And then is your goal to strictly just use cash from profits to pay down equipment for next year until you think about adding anybody else?
I think so. Again, I've been kind of working through that the last little while, the last couple months, and talking with my partner. Like, we want to build a half decent sized shop at our yard, put an office space in there, which we have an office space now, but we want to build a new shop with an office quarters, things like that. And so, like, those are nice things to have, but I wouldn't say that they're a necessity, and they're obviously not a necessity if we're doing 2.3 million right now without it. So that's kind of my analogy to it. We could really use a tag float for the dump truck and all these things that we'd like to have, but we're making money without it. So do we need it right now? It's kind of what I'm trying to figure out. And what can the market bear, and what can we bear for payments? I just bought a used truck and did an interior swap and did a bunch of work to it because I don't want any more payments. It's not that we couldn't probably, it's not that we couldn't afford them, but I just don't feel like we're at the position that we should be taking on more. And I want to put us in a position where we can comfortably take winters off, right? And not have to worry so much, where we can comfortably know with any market changes, anything like that in the economy, we can survive all those. We can, if we don't, I don't want to have to do 2 septics a week just to be profitable, right? Oh, I do 1 septic a week, I break even, but I have to do 2 to be profitable, right? It'd be nice to put ourselves in a position where we can kind of ride things out a little bit smoother. So I think paying off some equipment is what I would really like to do, and I know that's against what a lot of other people would say or think, and I would say that I probably would have said differently last year as well. But I think getting to that mark where your overhead is so high and your costs are so high monthly, and dealing with that stress, and dealing with that, you kind of reflect on that a little bit and go, okay, what do I want here? Do I want more shiny equipment so I can look cool on Instagram, or do I want a good business where I can make half decent money and make good money, and have a little bit less stress? And then you're also in a stronger position going forward, right? Like, we would like to get a little bit more into some civil work on the sanitation side, storm sewers, things like that. But that's likely and time is going to take some equipment to do that, and different equipment. So putting ourselves in a position where we have some of our equipment paid off now, if we want to make that investment, then, we can afford it, right? But just piling onto your payments and piling onto your payments to where you're $20,000 a month or $30,000 a month for your payments, to me, it doesn't seem like a good practice for us, especially when we're so seasonal.
Yeah, it's a good way to, one, be really stressed all the time, and then two, make, like, I think those, and I'd be interested to get your opinion on this, but like for me in the beginning, when I made the decision, I'm like, all right, we're going to do fire mitigation, right? So here are the 3 pieces of equipment I need. So we just did it. And I like went and signed my name on it. And I think there's a certain level of risk you have to take in the beginning, which sounds like you did the same thing with septic.
Yeah.
Right. And you basically come to terms with yourself that I'm okay with taking on this monthly nut because I'm confident in myself that I can go figure out how to get enough jobs to at least pay that. Right. So that's like check one. But then to your point, like doubling that or jumping into another service where you need like a different equipment set, it's like you're building a different business model at that point. And so that's something I've personally been thinking through a lot. And I like your approach of like, hey, I've specialized in septics and I have this equipment and we need to get this profitable and humming to where we could withstand a downturn or an economy change or something unexpected.
Yeah. And that's where I think and I think it's been not just my business. It's been, it's been in my personal life, the last, kind of these changes in the last little bit. And it's not really anything changing financially. I think it's just my mindset. I think things have just changed. I mean, I just turned 29. I'll be 30 next year. I feel like I'm getting older, but I feel like for the last, 10 years of my life, I've really risked everything. I feel like every 2 months I was putting my financial life on the line. And I think that after a while, 10 years of that, like, I bought a house when I was 19, and it really started, that's 10 years ago now. It started from there. I was just really putting everything on the line on every investment that I made, that if anything went bad, I was going up essentially. So I think that 10 years of that kind of gets to you after a while. And it's after I've had kids and things, is that trying to realize, maybe, there's a level of risk to everything, but I think that I'm wanting a little bit more security now, and not that you want security so you're not motivated to get up in the morning, because I think some payments are good and I think some overhead's good. I mean, you need to be motivated, but I think in my life, I would have always told you, leverage your house as hard as you can, leverage your primary residence as hard as you can, buy more properties, buy rental properties. I got a few properties now, and my house now, I would have never thought that I'd want to pay my house off. And now my goal is, in the next couple of years, I just want to pay my mortgage off and be debt free on my house and just have no mortgage. And that's a completely different mindset than I've had previously. But I think it's just for those reasons that I feel like I'm putting everything on the line with my business all the time. There's so much going on. I just want to, the roof over my family's head. I just want that to be, taken care of. And I think that in some aspect of my business, I'm thinking the same way, is that I want to make sure that I put myself and my partner and any employees that we have too in a good position, because if your business is in a good position, you're also a lot more powerful of an employer, right? I mean, why do people want to work for big companies? Because they know that they have the bank account to withstand some downturns and not lay them off after 2 days of no work, right? So I think for us, that's an important thing for me too, is that I want to put us in a good position where we're powerful and we're not running redlined all the time and affected by every sort of downturn. If we have our core, so let's say my septic, our septic business, what we're doing right now to do 2 million a year. Okay, we got 2 skiddies and 2 hose, right? If we get those, if you have that, say, paid for at some point, and then you want to get into any other sort of venture and do more civil work, or you want to, we want to get bigger, want to do anything else, and we take on debt for that, we can always go back if we had to, or we always have that core income, kind of our roots of how we got to where we are with that equipment that we have, and we can always pivot if we need to. And I think that that's always an important thing for me, is having having that security. And again, the reality of going back to it or using that is very low. But I think just mentally for a business owner, I think that that's an important thing, is to have some level of security.
Striker Digital specializes in SEO services specifically for local service businesses. Bodie and Andy, the two co-founders, have helped me get Bear Claw Land Services to the #1 search result on Google inside my state for my specific search term. If you want to learn more, visit strikerdigital.com. That's STRYKER-digital.com. It's crazy what having kids will change in your mind from that perspective, because I'm right there with you. In my 20s, I was just like, let's just go all in. Who cares, Like, just take it, and if you fail, it's a learning lesson. And whereas that now, it's like there's no option to do that, right? That's not an option in your mind. So I think whenever, at least for me, whenever that has changed, it's like if you have to build some more security, then it's like perspective on how to run the business and how to do personal finances changes a bit as well.
Yeah, and I think it's what you want too, right? Like I would have, I think that and things may change again, but I think looking at some of these bigger companies with 10, 15, 20 guys, all this iron, doing all this work, as of right now, I don't want that. Like I don't want to have 20 guys and lose touch of the business, just be in an office full time and have all these people and kind of lose control, right? I think looking at some of these companies where, if you look at some of the old boys in it, 3, 4, 5 guys, they got some gear paid for, they got 20, 25, 30, 35 years in the business, they're all doing well. They're all driving new trucks, and, their houses are paid for, and they have cottages, and they've been in it for a long time, but they're all living good lives. And, they might not be able to exit and sell their business for 10, $15 million, but the reality of that for 99.9% of people is pretty low. So I think that, building a good life that way through your business, I think that a lot of people discount that and think that, they need to build this business and they need to look like there's this, huge potential for business. It's like, well, I could get to 10 or 15 or 20 guys, but then you kind of think, well, if I don't get there, I'm a failure. And I think that that's wrong. I think that, if you get to a point to where you're comfortable, you're happy, maybe the next generation, maybe I only ever run 5 guys. Maybe I run 10 guys if I get into civil. I'm not sure. I just know where I'm at right now and take it year by year. But maybe my son will be the one to take it to the next level, right? Maybe that's what it'll be. And you really never know that. But I think finding this spot that you want to be and that where you're making, level of income that you're happy with, that you can live your life comfortably. I think that's winning to me. Winning. And there's a certain level of enjoyment that comes along with it too. It's like, what do you want, Brock? Like, what do you want out of this? Like, what do you enjoy doing? What do you want your day-to-day look like? And the cool thing about owning a business is you get to make that decision. Yeah, exactly. And I think that everyone's at a different spot. I think that everyone's at a different spot in their life. I think everyone's business is different. And you have to have some level of drive, and you definitely have to have some level of hunger, and you have to have an ego to run a business. That's for sure. But I think that, I don't think that there's anything wrong with knowing where you want to go and knowing where you're at and kind of planning off of that and going, like when we had 5 guys, which is nothing. It's really nothing, but myself and my partner, when we went down to 3 guys, and it was like, okay, now we're going to slug this out really hard to get back in the field. Both of us kind of looked at each other and was like, wow, this is great. Like, this is awesome. It's just me, him, and another guy. And it's just not worrying about all these other people. And it's like, let's just get out there and make money. That's all we want to do. Like, I want to be in a machine. I want to be working. And that may change. I do enjoy getting the opportunity to look at some of these other bigger jobs and, hopefully get into some different kind of work. Still on the sanitary side and sanitation side. I do enjoy that, but I also just really enjoy doing what we're doing. Like, I enjoy being in the field. I enjoy putting in the systems. I enjoy dealing with the customers. I enjoy being on site. I enjoy hopping in the dump truck here and there. And if our business can make money and I can make money doing that, then I don't really see the huge need to change that and alter that. I'm curious to hear, this is something I've been thinking about a lot. We may go a little bit of a level deeper here. Like, why do you enjoy it? What is it specifically about operating equipment?
and being in the field that you enjoy?
I just like iron, I guess. I like diesel motors. I think it's just the kind of, I think it's kind of the gearhead in me. And I think it's like when I was a mechanic, we used to always say, had a saying called big parts win hearts, right? You take off a big part and everybody thinks it's this huge task, but could still just be 4 bolts. And I think it's similar to that it looks, sometimes looks impressive what we're doing. And, you see these big tanks, you see these big cuts and these big holes. And it's just kind of that thing. It's like, big parts win hearts. It looks impressive. It feels impressive. It's really not rocket science, but I think it's that part of it. And I feel like, there's nothing happier to me than when I hear the iron running and I'm on site and tanks are rolling in, concrete trucks are rolling in, trucks are backed up to the road, triaxles are coming in, dropping material. You hear those backup alarms everywhere and dirt's moving. I think I just get a lot of enjoyment out of that and running that site and knowing that I'm the guy that designed this system. I'm the guy that put everyone on this site. I'm the guy that ordered these tanks, that ordered these trucks, and everything's there because I made the call and I made it happen. And I sold the job, and I'm gonna, invoice and I'm gonna collect the check. So I think that that's it for me. Really, is I just like the process, and that's why I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose touch of that. Like I don't like sitting in an office all day, just driving around in my truck. And a lot of times, sometimes you have to do that, but I really do enjoy being on site and watching the job and being part of the job coming together. Listening to the trucks and Jake brakes and machines going. I don't know. I think that's a big part of it. If I was going to be honest with myself on it.
Man, that's awesome. Is there a level of, like, when you're operating, where does your brain go? Are you like completely like is your brain spinning on the actual thing that's actually happening, or is it going in other areas from a strategy perspective?
I think that's what I enjoy about being on site, and that's what I like is that I really check out in a lot of ways from the business, which is maybe a bad thing, but I think I need to. So I don't like when I'm in that machine, when I'm digging, I'm still getting phone calls and stupid shit constantly, but it's just, sometimes I won't even take them all, I'll put them off and I'll wait till lunch or I'll wait till the end of the day and I'll follow up on those. And I'll just, sometimes I'll put my phone on, I'll just throw my AirPods in and I'll listen to podcasts and I'll just sit there and like, there's days where I've dug for 8-9 hours straight, hardly got out of the cab once. And I just have my AirPods in, listening to podcasts all day and hop in my truck at the end of the day. And I was like, wow, that's the best day I've had in about 6 months. I just sat in that machine, dug a hole all day. I was like, this is great. There's nothing, there's nothing that makes me happier than hopping in my dump truck, cranking those jakes up and just, shifting gears, running through the pit. And I'm just like, man, this is living right here. But, knowing that, I own that truck, running it to my job. And I think that there's a huge level of enjoyment there. Now, do I want to be a dump truck driver every day? No. And that's the thing, if you do it every day, then, you kind of lose the enjoyment of it. But that's, for me, I think that when I get in the equipment, I do check out a little bit. And I think that that's what's kind of nice at where we're at and the level that we're at. I'll be honest, yeah, to do what we're doing and to do as much revenue as we're doing and to do, like when I tell you 1.5 to 2 septics a week, like I don't think a lot of people fully understand how many people I talk to get that kind of work and how many septics I look at, how many septics I quote nonstop. But I think that building systems where I can do it so fast has been really big for me. Because like I quote these systems and I never even go to them. Like I don't even go to the site a lot of times, right? I don't even go look at them. I just, I quote them and then, I'll verify later. I do, if a customer needs me out there or wants me, if they got a failed system, I always go out and take a look at them, walk them through and verify it's failed. But again, I think just efficiency in that aspect is how we do it and try and simplify everything. But it is a lot to stay on top of day to day. But when I get the chance to kind of just run the gear and check out for a bit, I definitely really enjoy that.
It's a great place whenever you're in the cab. There's some, especially when you got a million different things going business wise. I don't know what it is, but it's like I can't exactly put my finger on it, but I do know it's good for me, at least from like a mental perspective.
Well, I think you'll go back. Yeah, and I think that you would remember. Do you remember your first piece of gear that you bought? Like, do you remember that?
Absolutely. And like, dude, I've
Like,
always wanted my own skid steer. Always. Like, I grew up
and,
running that for my dad, and it was like the bet. Like, dude, I used to work concrete with him in the summers, like stamping concrete in West Texas. It was hot as hell. It's like, here, go grade this out or go move that with the skid steer. And I would just be like a kid in a candy store, because I'm like, oh, I get to sit in this cab and I'm like using a machine to do work rather than me manually grabbing this big tamper and just like smacking concrete all day, And so it's like,
yeah, and I
I've
think,
always wanted that skid steer.
yeah, and that's what I'm saying is that if you go back to that and that feeling, as anybody that's got into this knows that feeling when you buy your first piece of equipment and you hook that up to the back of your truck and you're driving down the road with it, and you just, you just feel like the king of all with that thing, behind, is that, you feel like you really won the world when you finally buy that piece of gear and you got that, behind your truck. And I think that you lose sight of that as time goes on. Um, and maybe it's not for, and like I say, maybe everybody's different, and maybe some people get into it with a different mindset. And all they want is a big business, and all they want is as much gear as they can possibly have, and have 15, 20 guys. And what brings them joy is employees and being an employment agency, right? But I think that getting back in the equipment kind of brings you back to that, like, day one of when you got it, and that when you look around and you look at all the gear you have, and you're like, I think you forget about it sometimes, and I think we do. Like, I mean, all of our gear is scattered on different sites here and there, and I think that if we took all of our equipment, parked it in our yard, and where our small shop is now, like where everything is, like if I look back and said, wow, if I would have thought 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, that this is where I'd be, and what we would have and what we'd be doing, I couldn't even imagine it. But I think that day to day now, you kind of feel like you're not doing certain things right, or you could be doing more and different things. And it's like looking back on what you are doing, what you are accomplishing, I think is very important.
Man, that is such a good word, Brock. Here we are. It's December 21st into 2024 here, going into 2025. I think it's easy for, especially guys in construction, like we're all wired very similarly. It's, for me, it's very similar to sports. It's like locker room type feel. You can talk crap to guys. They'll dish it back out to you. They'll call you out if you're not doing your job. You can call other people out if they're not being the best. And like, nobody's going to get butthurt, right? And that's what I like about it. But it's like when you're high strung like that, and when you want to just run and gun, it's really easy to lose sight of like what you have actually already accomplished. And so right now, for listeners, I would encourage you, if you are building a business, just look back on 2024. One thing that popped into my head is like, whenever you were talking about that, it's like, I should just take a drive through the yard and just be thankful for what we have accomplished up to this point. Did we do a lot of things well this year? Yes. Did we make some mistakes? Yes. And can we get better? Yes. But I think reflection is just as important as goal setting. So if you're listening to this, take a minute, maybe take half the day, go drive around, see what you got, be thankful for what you do have. Brock, I know you got a family at home. I'm super thankful for my family. And sometimes it's, you run and gun all the time and you just lose sight of those little things as well.
Yeah. And I think that's my point to get across, is that, like you say, we're coming near the end of the year now. And I think that we all go through those stages. And I've been through plenty of those stages. And the last 2 years have been big 2 years for us. And is that, just reflecting on, and it's maybe for other people to say, well, it's easy for you to say because, you're proud of doing, 2 point whatever million in revenue. Well, there's plenty of guys doing 10, 20, 30, 40, right? There's plenty of guys doing 5, double, triple what we're doing. There's lots of guys doing a lot more than we are. There's guys doing what we are and that are a lot more profitable than us, probably. But I think that, kind of getting away from that and just being happy, with where you are and being proud of what you're doing I think that's really important. It just, focus on your own business, because you really never, you never really know what's going on in someone else's business. And there's a lot of smoke and mirrors in this industry. And as you get to know people a lot more, there's people that you may put on a pedestal. And I know for myself, there was a lot of that. There was guys that I really put on a pedestal, that I thought that they had the world by the balls in this industry. And as I got to know them better, as I got more experience, and I got to know the insides of their business a little bit more. It's like, it's all smoke and mirrors. These guys are, either leveraged to the nines. They hardly can't pay their bills month to month. They're, robbing Peter to pay Paul with deposits constantly, and their life is just hectic and out of control. But on social media, it's brand new trucks and brand new gear and all this stuff. And, vacations and life's great and doing all this work. But really on the back end of it, they're running wild and out of control. So I think that's an important thing to remember. Is I think social media is probably the detriment to most people getting into business. And I think that we just you need to focus more on yourself and what you're doing, and not what other people are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. What are some things in 2024 you're going to leave behind, and what are some things that you're going to take forward in 2025?
Oof, I don't know. Well, definitely leaving pumping behind. Like I said, we sold the pump truck. We're leaving that behind. And 2025, I think 2025 is just going to be a more focused year. I think that we're going to have a better focus right out of the gate. I think that this 2024 was a little bit wild. Spring on, and we were trying to figure, second year, trying to figure out what works and doesn't work. What we want to do, where things are going. So I think 2025 is just going to be a focus year, and focus on, as I think we're going to be a lot more clear-minded for 2025, because now that we've focused even more, now we're only doing installs and repairs, and we're not doing the pumping. So I think that's gonna let us kind of refine our skills even more for 2025.
If you haven't signed up for the weekly newsletter yet, go to ownerops.com/newsletter. That's OWNROPS.com/newsletter. We summarize all of the learning lessons from the interviews with the guests on the podcast, and we distill those into short, actionable tips, tricks, tactics, and strategies that you can use to grow your own local service business. Sign up for the newsletter at ownerops.com. That's OWNROPS.com.
Do you feel like your mind has already processed the reflection process for 2024? Like when you're in the equipment and you're thinking through just like, okay, what's our strategy for 2025? Have you already processed that, or do you need some more time at the end of the year to just be like, okay, I need either like a day to just process what we're going to do, or have you already made those decisions?
No, I've already beat that to death in my mind for the last 6 weeks or even longer, and I already have in my mind. I've already made my decisions and made my projections for what's gone on in 2024 and what's hopefully happening in 2025. So I think that for me is a little bit of coming near the end of the year is almost a little bit of peace. It's like this is what happened in 2024. This is what we did. This is how much money we made. This is what we were doing. And this is what we're going to do in 2025. And just a very clear, concise mission for that. And I think that there's not as much uncertainty. Like 2023, our first couple months, and going into 2024, like there was like, you're almost kind of like just sitting there jittery the whole time, like waiting, like, like, do I do this? Do I do that? Is this going to be the right move? Am I doing the right thing? What am I doing? I just hired 3 people and it's February, and like, I got to get them going and, get them paid, and we can't move dirt till May. And it's like, I think now we're just almost a little bit of peace. Almost, we have a little bit clearer directions. Like, hey, this is what 2025 is going to be. And if things change along the way, like, I've got a couple $1 million worth of quotes in the works for 2025 for some civil commercial jobs. Now, are all those going to come together? I doubt it. Are any of them? I'm not sure. But if one of them do, that may change the trajectory of our 2025. But I'm not really worried about that right now. All I know is that what we do is we put in septics, and I know that the work's going to keep coming, and we have work for next year. We're just going to keep doing what we're doing, and just try and focus on making money and putting in septics, and not kind of overanalyze the small stuff.
So if you had to answer in one sentence, what does your business do and who does it do that for?
Septics, residential. We put in septic systems for residential homes, and that's it.
We're going to go like a rapid fire, quick response answers, because it sounds like you've made decisions on 2025. How do you get those customers?
Referral and marketing. As time's gone on, we've got more referrals now. We're a little bit, our referral to marketing ratio, organic ratio is a little bit, is coming closer together than it was when we first started.
So are you closer to 50-50? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I would say that probably 50% of our business is referral based and 50% of it's marketing. I mean, it might even be more referral based, to be honest. But I know, like when we first started, you're very marketing based. You're very much basing off your organic leads from marketing. Where now that we have a little bit of time in the industry, now we're starting to build that referral, and that's what's going to hopefully keep propelling us forward every year to kind of hit those revenue marks.
Let's talk marketing. If you can only pick one form to market your business, one channel, what do you do?
Website and SEO, I guess, if that can count as one.
So is that the 20% of your marketing that's driving 80% of your results?
Yeah, I would say so. Our website and SEO is probably that, to me, that's probably one of the most important, because it kind of gives you that foothold. You can buy followers on Instagram, you can buy likes, you can buy anything on anything on Facebook. You can even buy, you can technically buy reviews, I guess, on Google. But I think that strategically placing your website to rank highly on Google and to be well recognized on Google, that's something that takes time. No matter how much money you throw at it, you can throw a ridiculous amount of money at it and be sponsored ads all over the place to be on the top page. But to have organic search, top of the page, SEO, that takes time. And I think that that's something that's a little bit harder to buy your way into sometimes. Unless you have really deep pockets. So I think that that's why I believe that having a good website and really spending some money on your SEO is very important.
How much did you spend in 2024 on SEO?
On SEO, well, it's about $1,600 a month just on SEO. So do the math on that. So, yeah, it's probably
18 grand.
Yeah, 18,000. So I think it's right around that, 15 or 1,600. And then the equivalent on Google Ads, and then we have other marketing as well.
How much will you spend on SEO in 2025?
Similar. I think we're just going to stay the same. I don't think we're going to increase we're actually dialing back our marketing. Well, I think we're going to reallocate some money. We might spend a little bit more money on SEO. I think we may reallocate some of our marketing spend, because we've had some marketing dollars spent in certain areas that I don't believe are performing very well, and kind of a waste of money. Whereas if I just took that money and say, put it here, put it towards my SEO, or hey, like I could probably throw up another billboard somewhere, versus sponsoring some stock car for $3,000 for the season, right? Like, something that's going to do absolutely nothing for me. So I think that that's kind of something that we're, for next year, is maybe just reallocating, possibly dial back on some of the unnecessary spending for marketing, which I would deem unnecessary. But it's not even so much as dialing back the spending, it's just maybe reallocating it, putting it somewhere better. And I think that all just takes time. And I think every market is a little bit different. I think like lawn care guys do great with lawn signs, and they should be spending, a ton of money in marketing on local ads and lawn signs, but not every business might perform that well. So I think that learning your business and how it performs, your marketing kind of just takes time. And then you don't put all your money on one thing, diversify it, see where and just try and track where you're getting those leads. And then as time goes on, just start reallocating more money into that source.
Do you get any leads from organic social, like posting on your Instagram or your Facebook?
I believe so. Like, I know we've definitely gotten a few that, like, people have reached out to us through Instagram. Again, I think of Instagram as like an ongoing digital resume. Is how I think of it. I don't really think that we get work from it, but I think that once somebody knows who we are, like I have a few designers and engineers, architects, builders, things like that follow me on Instagram. And my big thing is, like, for them is like, I'm also instilling confidence in them, and they see what we're doing day to day, and they know that we're, capable of it. So maybe when that job comes up, maybe when that drawing comes up, they're going to know that they've seen Canadian Sanitation do this 5 times, 10 times. They've seen it online. They know that we're capable of it. So I think that that's, that's the importance of it. But I don't really think getting organic clients from Instagram, possibly Facebook, depending on your service. I don't really put a whole lot into Facebook, but no, I don't think for us there's been a ton through social media.
Cool. What's your Instagram tag? I know you're pretty active on there.
At Canadian.Sanitation.
Canadian.Sanitation. Okay, so if you are listening to this, and you want to see, sort of Brock's work, go check him out there. This has been a lot of fun, Brock. I know that
you never got that. Did I ever send you that book that we talked about? I don't think I did.
No, I never got it.
Because our Canada Post is back open now. I don't know if you guys heard, but they've been on strike for the last like 6 weeks.
No,
So we've had no mail. No, yeah, Canada Post has been on strike for the last 6 weeks. So I got a bunch of checks in the mail that I've been waiting for forever because nothing's getting delivered. So we've been doing everything by UPS, but UPS is a fortune to send anything down to the States. So I will send one over to you shortly, and then also there's a link on our Instagram to buy the book as well.
Okay, and for our listeners, can you tell us a little bit more about the book and what is the book about and what does it help people with?
So I designed it for when you're doing site visits based on my experience and all the questions that the things that you want to know. So it's basically a worksheet. Consider it a small notebook with 50 pages that are identical. It's just a template. You put the customer's name, you put the address, but there's a whole bunch of subcategories for questions and things that you need to know when you're quoting a septic. All the important things, and there's also 4 to 5 Ontario Building Code pages in the back, which might not be pertinent to many people in different regions, but a lot of them are transferable to different areas, and they're relatively the same. I mean, regardless of the codes, I think the worksheets are pretty helpful. It's, bedrooms, bathrooms, square feet, square meters. And then on the backside, I also included kind of different ways to do templates for how I do takeoffs. I have a few different ways of doing it, but this was just one way that I showed that kind of how I started out doing it. So if you want to calculate how much material you need, so if you're sitting there and you're designing a septic and you're wondering how much material you need, I actually have in there on the backside, you can put in the numbers. It tells you how to do the calculation, the formula, and it'll show you exactly how many triaxles or how many tons you need for each one.
I love it. That's gold right there. So if you are looking to get into the septic world, or if you are currently and you want some help with that, Brock is obviously dialed on his systems. If you haven't listened to the first 2 episodes, go back and listen to those, because he tells a little bit more about his story and how he made that initial decision. And he kind of got in that on this episode. But all 3 episodes I've done with Brock have just been nothing short of incredible because of who Brock is and sort of like what he stands for and just his work ethic. So Brock, I appreciate you being on the podcast again. You embody pretty much everything that I've set out to do with my business, and then also just like represent with the podcast. It's like, look, man, at the end of the day, this just takes a lot of hard work. It really does. And somewhere along the line, like, I'm just seeing this trend in America that it's like people like want everything and want this like great life without having to do the hard work to get there. And I don't know where that went wrong, but my whole mission with this podcast is just to basically showcase people like you who are like out there just busting your butt, making it happen, doing 3 people's jobs, not making excuses, and just committing to doing your best every single day. So thanks for what you do, and thanks for being on again, Brock.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thanks. Thanks for having me on. And I think that for myself, anytime I get a chance to speak, on a platform like this, is that that's the message that I always want to push, is that that's really, there's no cheat codes to any of this. It's just hard work. And it's not as glorious as some people may make it seem, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. It's hard work, and I think that this is the real life. This is real life of it. This is what it's really like. Things change as you get bigger, I guess. But really, you just got to get in, do it, and you're not going to have all the answers. So if you sit there and overanalyze it, you're never going to do it. So there's a lot that just needs to be figured out as you go.
Love it, man. Where else can people find you online other than the Instagram? Anywhere else?
We have Facebook, but it's just tied to my Instagram. Really, that's the I just stick to Instagram, and that's pretty much the only thing I'm on.
All right, cool. Well, thanks again for being on, Brock. And listeners, thanks again for listening to another episode of the Owner Ops Podcast, where we bring people on like Brock who are just out there getting things done, working hard. We like heavy equipment, and yeah, so does Brock. And so we hope that you guys are getting some value out of not just talking about heavy equipment here, but talking about the behind the scenes of actually building the business here. And so if you do enjoy this type of content, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Just like Brock and I are building an actual local service-based business. Brock talked about SEO on your Google My Business profile, getting reviews, things like that. Podcasts are super important. Podcast reviews are super important as well. So if you wouldn't mind to leave us a review, we'd appreciate that. And then also, we're doing a weekly newsletter where we basically take everything from this interview, we distill the learning lessons out of it, the high level topics that Brock shared, and then we'll send that to our readers on Saturday mornings. So if you have not subscribed to that, go to ownerops.com/newsletter. That's OWNROPS.com/newsletter. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Don't forget, work hard, do your best, never settle for less.